Thank
Anyone
you.
else wish to come forward and speak in opposition? 2102. Is there anyone else, Mr. Hughes?
I see none.
Turn it over to the board for discussion. Let's discuss this puppy. I could start out by saying, just because I got my mouth open. R1 is this area. I've looked at the overhead. I'm familiar with the Cinnamon area and the area abutting and around and adjacent. And this area is R1. And I think this proposal is asking these residents a lot. It's asking those persons along Creighton and Kingsbury to carry their load. If they wanted this, they should have asked for it years ago. They didn't. And actually, when this thing was first presented, it had pieces of it that reached onto ranch. It could have been some kind of a feeder out, and that wasn't done. But now they're asking these people to carry the load, and I just got a big problem with it. That's me. I also point out that list of property owners adjacent to the neighborhood, I think pretty much feels the same way. We did not hear from the 60 plus people that signed the petition, but we've all got a copy of it. Those people adjacent and in the neighborhood feel the same way, and it goes on. I mean, there's some engineering data in here from Whitlock and others that says this is not going to fly as proposed. I just have concerns a lot of different directions. The water's been brought up, the traffic's been brought up. Now I'll be quiet. Y'all go ahead and do your discussing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So, as I look at this, there's a couple of things I want to address that came up in some of the testimony tonight that just to maybe put some folks' mind at ease. And one of the comments was about the water and how that's handled in stormwater. That is handled a little later in the process because they have to meet the requirements of the PAD, and they'll have to go through stormwater requirements, and that will take care of that piece. So I want people to be rest assured that the county's regulations already cover those things, and there are a number of places that around the county and developments that I've seen in my time on the board that they have worked the way that they're supposed to. Traffic is certainly a concern. The biggest thing that I have, and while I agree with part of Mr. Lee and Mr. Dobbs and Mr. Murray's comments on this, there's a few that I don't. And one is, and it'll just have to be agree to disagree, I don't believe the traffic study of a 55 plus development creates less traffic. I think that's a farcity in today's world. We are way more mobile than we've ever been. I'm 58. I probably drive more miles than most of the folks on the planning board. I come through this area every day to work. I see the traffic on Sunshine at Forest Heights and at Range Drive. I see it both morning and evening at various different times. When I look at what a PAD is supposed to be, there are in our regulations items A through I, and generally it meets all of those with the exception of H, which it says with reasonable consideration being given to, among other things, the character of the district and its peculiar suitability for particular uses. And as I look at that area, and I drove through it again yesterday and went and looked at it after we received several comments from people in the documents, I went to look to see about the barn and the maintenance of the property. And you drive all through that, they're all single family homes. And I remember in 2017 when this was here, it was a compromise, essentially, what we did to take that the track that was left back there and make it more like what was existing around it. So for that reason in particular, I can't support this change to stick that type of density right in the middle of a bunch of single family homes. I don't think that it's fair to the surrounding neighborhoods. It's a well-established, long-established neighborhood. There is other properties that are around that could be used for other types of more dense development that are not surrounded by a bunch of single-family homes. I just don't think it's fair for those property owners who've invested their time and invested their money in those homes around there to have this plopped right down the middle. So for that reason, I will not be able to vote for this.
Well said. Anybody else? If not, is there time for a motion? And that way we can make this a clean understanding motion.
I would point out before we go too far, the developer has also asked to make clarifications on the case, and since other members of the neighborhood were allowed to make questions, I would suggest the applicant be given a chance to clarify some things if that's appropriate.
That's up to other members of the board. If they need to ask the developer a question, it's just hard this way with this virtual world. You know, if we were sitting in a room, we could see things. We can't see everything. So I don't want to start anew. That's my hesitancy. But if there's a specific question the board member would like to ask the developer, and there were two, Mr. Murray and Mr. Dobbs, I gather that's who you're referring to, then it's up to the board if you guys want to. We're at that discussion part by now, though. Any questions for the developers, Mr. Jason Murray or Mr. Michael Dobbs? Now let's leave it to the board. Hearing none. What do you guys want to do with this as far as further discussion? Is there any?
Well, I guess I echo what I've heard a couple people say here, that we kind of compromised, I guess, back on the first one that came through, and I think for me it was okay. It's single family fits in that area. I was actually looking at the lots. They were a little bit larger than the lots that they were touching. I thought, yeah, that would be a good fit. Given what's proposed now, I think I'm going to have a hard time supporting that. That's my half-cent worth.
Thank you, Mr. Artman. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I guess one of the things that Mr. Nell brought up was hey, how do we know that this is not going to change again? And I think that's what's bothering me about this is in 2017, as Mr. Scott indicated, that plat was kind of a compromise to that community. And I kind of feel like we accepted that, and that's what the community agreed to at the time. So coming along with something else, I don't think is fair to those communities, the neighbors. So I don't think I could be in support of this particular change.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I'll add that, in Mr. Lee's testimony that, they could build taller places, it's single family, so they could build a taller structure there than what they're proposing. And I understand that, but he already had that already existed and has existed since 2017. So I want the neighbors to understand that it's single family housing, and a lot of those folks, you go around and look at those houses, they're pretty tall too. There's a lot of elevation changes there, so I don't want anybody to be surprised. And the traffic is going to be the traffic, and unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever you want to look at that, the loop to connect the Kingsbury and Crichton Place are just the things they can do. There is no access to Sunshine, nor I don't believe MoDOT would allow them to have access to Sunshine off that property. So you could dump out, maybe if you could work out something with Ranson O'Reilly, but that's not before us. So just as a point of clarification. So
Sure.
Hearing no other comments, following the correct protocol, I will move for approval of Planning Board Case 2102.
Second. Planning Board case number 2102. Motion's been made to approve with the conditions set forth by staff, I trust.
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion's been made and seconded. A yes vote will be to approve, a no vote will be to deny 2102. Mr. Godfrey?
No.
Mr. Scott?
No.
Mr. Artman?
No.
Commissioner Russell?
No.
Mr. Lloyd?
No.
Mr. Klingon?
No.
Mr. Webb?
No.
And the chair also votes no. This case, Planning Board 2102 will be recommended for denial, and that hearing before the commission will take place June 1 at 9:30. Is that right, Mr. Binkley? The
Yes, sir.
to be determined.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're next up